Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Digital Marketing Podcast. As always, the one and only Alex Makura. How are you, Alex?
Fantastic. Thanks for asking.
Oh,
It's a
of
good
course.
afternoon in midweek. Uh, day after my birthday, so can't really be better.
Happy birthday, Alex. You're turning 21, right?
I've stopped counting. I think after 18, I start counting.
Oh, Alex, thank you so much for taking the time as always, and thank you to everybody that is listening in or will listen in. Today we're going to talk about landing page optimization. We kind of came up with this topic because landing page plays a much deeper role than many people would think. You usually tend to optimize accounts, you tend to optimize keywords, but at the end of the day, your landing page is like the window of your shop, right? People are gonna make an impression of your company depending on what to include there. And Alex, I was thinking like probably the topics to start with would be the key elements of the landing page, right? The elements that will help you improve the conversion rate. Would you like to give it a go and kind of give some of the elements that you have seen succeed in your experience in digital marketing?
I think even before starting with elements of the website or the landing page, I think every so often, both advertisers but also businesses have this tendency of forgetting about who their client is, um, and therefore they're not actually adjusting or thinking about what problem am I solving for them. So they're more trying to optimize or set something up that is best practice, but actually not thinking about their niche audience or this particular sort of buyer persona that might be driven to this particular page from, may it be paid or organic or even direct.
Alex, would you agree though with the general statement that this is something I've been experiencing more and more over the past year? And I will take the chance to say hi to Tom that wishes us good morning. Good morning to you too, Tom. But something that I've noticed is the following: the more a service is valuable in terms of price to the customer. So let's say a PPC marketing agency is more valuable than a tool that lets you book calendar appointments, right? Because you're gonna pay $20 a month for the calendar appointment. For a marketing agency, you're gonna pay a few more bucks than that. With that said, I've noticed there is a tendency for people to convert better whenever a landing page is part of a website. In the past, everybody used to say you need to have a landing page, no menu, no navigation opportunity. But this has kind of changed in the past few years. Have you seen this tendency where having actually a complete website in support of the landing page tends to increase performance?
I'd say that it depends. I, I think at least the time when I partly use a standalone sort of landing page builder, um, is often to, it's always connected to the website, and there will sort of be strings and the brand sort of associations are there, but it's often because there's issues with the main website, maybe loading time, that has an impact on the user experience, and therefore using your metaphor there, Rocco, in terms of the window, the shopping window. And if the shopping window always turns out to be black every time you're trying to sort of look through it, it's an issue. And landing page builders had this quick win scenario where you can actually get leads in the door that way and that route.
And I think
Um,
like the spam and fake news and all of these people trying to scam you online have kind of created skepticism within the consumer, where they want to make sure you're quote unquote a real company, right?
but I think I think we're more. I think we, both of us, have been around for so long, and I think a lot of and advertisers out there still believe that buyers buy with one click, and haven't had more than one sort of interaction with you as sort of advertised that are trying to sell something. But I think that it's not true anymore. I think even if we're looking at sort of before this sort of downturn in the economy, I think even relatively cheap brands were seeing maybe 3 to 5 interactions with their brand, or their website before some sort of conversion happened. And I'd say that now during sort of an economic downturn where people are a bit more conscious, it requires even twice the amount of that. So I think, yes, I mean, all of a sudden you can't measure it. You need to have almost like this consumer journey, and you need to be very wary of it a lot more than in the past. So yes, there might be some skepticism, but I don't think that, people don't buy the pig in the bag anymore.
No, I agree. You make a very good point, particularly because I do feel that we are in a there is so many companies in every industry that at the end of the day, information is what drives people to make a decision one way or another. And actually, there is Tom that brings a very good point here. He says it's important to consider the message that needs to match the downstream offer. What does he mean here? Is basically saying that it is true. Most of the times you see an ad, the ad talks about something, you get to the landing page, and maybe that something is either not talked about or talked about at the end. So it kind of that consistency in communication that it seems like so basic, but many companies fail at doing that, right? So in that case, Alex, like, would you
But I mean,
think?
and sorry to interrupt you here, Rocco, but it's also like where there's almost this tendency, where I guess I don't believe in it, but what marketing and companies are run as silos. That
Yeah.
marketing, their job is to drive traffic to the site, and then there is a product team that owns the product, and then there's a branding team that says what that sort of represents what is being said on the website.
Yeah.
And therefore, there might be over promises being made by marketing that is then not sort of directly correlating to the actual user experience further down the funnel or part of the user experience. And yeah, I mean, you need to establish trust.
I agree, and I think one of like very good point you make is the communication across departments, right? Because the product team should technically own the marketing, but it doesn't happen always that way, where they have the marketing department working with the product team. It's usually, as you said, they work in separate silos. Now, however, that kind of creates opportunities for other companies that have that going on, because I do see Tom's point, where it's like you need to have a common message across the board, so people don't find surprises as they navigate your site and your offering. But would you say, like, okay, landing page optimization, right? We do know that eventually the offer is what makes the difference. Like, I was working with a client not too long ago where we had one product, which is a service product, and literally all the three offers were promoting the same thing, which was you do not pay until we increase your performance. It was very easy. But we communicated it in three different ways. The first way was a 30 days free trial. The second way was you don't pay a dime until we increase your ROAS. The third way we communicated it is we are a performance based solution. Well, believe it or not, the second offer, which we said we only get paid when we increase your ROAS, had literally a 96% higher conversion rate. And it was the same offer pretty much, right? So I do agree with you. Like, whenever there is no communication across departments, that could create a problem. Now, in your
But
go ahead, Alex. Go ahead.
no. I mean, I guess I just interrupted you for the fun of it. No, but I was more like trying to bring it back also to the actual optimization, and I think I mean, the point that you're making here, I think, in terms of ROAS as well, is that you don't know what problem you're solving for your client. And therefore, the way that you packaged it by experimenting, basically packaging the same offer in three different ways, and you started getting closer to your, I would say, ideal customer profile.
Yeah, we
And
kind of I
we,
feel that people are getting overexposed nowadays to so much offering that you really need to hit the nail to be able to even get the lead, right?
yeah, and I mean, I think it needs to be simple and to the point, and therefore, I think it's you can't believe that you can sell to the masses again in the same sort of shoot from the hip type of way that you used to. And I mean, going into the back to what you spoke about in terms of landing page. I mean, I think one can't have a cluttered website. Uh, one needs to respect people's time based on the information that you ask up front. Meaning, how many form fields do you actually have? I mean, I've had experiences where we just did a simple split test
Yeah.
where if we added another form field, we dropped 25% in conversion rate. And when you start seeing these type of tendencies, you starting to realize that, hey, is this information that we're asking here up front that valuable to the business at this state of the game, or can we ask for it somewhere downstream?
Yeah,
And
we kind of is interesting is that whenever we get to form fields and fields on the form, right? That's a whole different topic because the original thought, like when I started marketing, was like, oh, you need to get the form fields to be able to get the sale. But that kind of has changed with the introduction of AI because you can add the form field, get 25% less conversions. But what if those form fields all of a sudden become much greater quality because they committed to one more piece of information, right? So literally the landing page optimization exercise has shifted toward a whole funnel exercise, right? Because a bad number at the beginning might not necessarily indicate the worst performance at the end.
and I mean, you're using generative AI, and I'd say that if you start adding predictive AI, where you start using models behind it, say that you're selling enterprise B2B solutions, rather expensive, probably quite a lot of in sort of touches with the website and sort of various areas. You will be able to start building almost like lead scoring profiles of your users based on, I mean, offline events that they've been to, how often they've visited your website, where they've been on your website, and etc. etc. And all of a sudden, with that information, you can also personalize the form fields that you're actually presenting to that person.
Yeah.
Um, and you can almost create landing pages that are personal, because you can, in essence, and not even in theory anymore, but in real life, create these personal sort of content websites that makes it super personal.
No, I agree. I think that's definitely like a very good point to potentially analyze down the line, right? Because it does become more complex. But Alex, quick question for you. Landing page optimization, we talked about form, we talked about all the reasoning behind it, but there is another, I feel, component that many people underestimate, which is different channels lead different type of content. Because I'm imagining, but think about, I don't know, an hotel, right? A hotel needs to have two different landing pages because if somebody comes from Google Ads, they are looking for an hotel in a specific city, the page maybe must be much more to the point. Here's the price, here is what you get, check the dates. But let's assume you're scrolling through Facebook, you are bored, you see an ad for an hotel, like, oh, that looks cool. But you have not done any research on the city, you have not compared any hotel in the area. You're just almost doing an impulse decision. You go on the website. Now the website, the landing page needs to tell you what you can do nearby the hotel, what if there are restaurants nearby. It becomes a completely different experience. So landing page optimization really is also an optimization by channel based on where the user is in the buying journey, right?
I mean, 100%. And I think you almost have. By essence, I mean, top of funnel, mid funnel, and sort of both bottom of funnel, or sort of awareness, consideration, and acquisition sort of experiences,
Yeah.
where you're sort of addressing exactly. And I think where you have almost like an exact matched keyword from a paid ad on Google, you should probably have a pretty strong um, selling landing page that are selling related to that keyword or that destination, and probably also with some testimonials that are backing things up, because people don't like to buy from companies that say that they're great. They like to
Yeah.
buy from people that say that this company is good.
No, that makes sense. And I feel like, part of that is it's a lot of work. Like creating a business that converts, unfortunately, is not a 1, 2, 3 exercise. You get a page, good marketing campaign. You kind of need to be multi-faced and address the different users at the different stages. It's like you're not going to run away from that exercise.
But I mean, I think it it almost, I mean, in the B2B world, one normally, and also from a product side, like almost it is where you start talking about almost product led growth, where you let the product sort of speak its own language and also do a lot of the marketing. Um, and I kind of like that, because we're going back to the cross functional sort of belief that marketing is connected very much to the product or the service or whatever is being sort of sold. And if it doesn't live up or actually blow the expectation of the buyer away, you will not probably not have a very happy buyer. and and what you need to do is you need to almost go on out on the limb now to really wanting to get your users to buy into your product and also speak highly about it.
And I think like it becomes also very important to be more than a good marketer, a good psychologist when it comes to marketing, because I'm thinking that a lot of what we forget is the state of mind and the state of the, the point in their life of a user when they are searching or looking at a page or they're interested in a product or a service. Because what we might be thinking we want to display about the product is not necessarily what the user wants to know about, and that's very hard to do. Not many marketers are able to imagine being the client and the different clients that the business has to understand the state of mind when going through a decision for a product or service. So, for example, let's assume you are promoting a procedure to lose weight, like a doctor that offers procedure to lose weight. You might assume that people are concerned about the money and they're concerned about I don't know how long does it take to if they qualify for a procedure. But maybe what they're concerned about is the downtimes from work. So you really need to be able to think like a consumer to be able to understand. Okay, what do they want to read? Which is eventually what back in the day when companies that budget for that was a focus group where you would get a lot of your customers and ask questions, right? But in digital marketing, everything goes so fast. You need to be able to do it yourself, kind of understanding the mentality of the user. Don't you think so?
I mean, I think I've normally, and I've been writing about it in the past, and I've sort of been speaking about it as well. But I use almost like this framework called abbreviated Elmer, where everything starts with emotion. and then so we're all emotional human beings. So you need to awake some sort of emotion. It could be a negative or a positive one. Um, and we would do something because of that, and it's based on instinct. We
Yeah.
can't really explain why it is, but actually it's pretty simple. There are seven various emotions that we sort of can sort of go towards, and as a marketer or a salesperson, you can either sort of play on the positive side of belonging to something, or owning something, and you feel good by doing so because everyone else is doing that. I also want to belong. It's tribal behavior. Or if I buy that, I feel successful. Or if I don't have that, the other side. Um, but but as a marketeer, you almost walk people through the very basic side of first the emotional sort of awakening that you then need to boost up with logic. Um, and that logic is more how we individuals rationalize that emotion. And it comes in that sort of phase. But that logic cannot be too difficult. You can only really come with, say, 3 to 5 ways of sort of motivating that logic and that rationale, or else you cognitively overloading people and they will just go, "Whew, bye."
No, that is true, Alex. And I think like what
But wait, Rocco, like, because you will have the last two ones is the motivation to actually complete the buy,
yeah.
and and then you actually have the absolute final bit to it, and what most sellers companies forget, and it's the actual reward. And it's when you've actually bought something that, hey, you actually just send out a thank you note to your buyer. Hey, we really appreciate that you bought from us. Thank you. We're here for you. Doesn't require more than that.
And how, Alex, is it like I do see your point, right? Like you're basically saying that you need to understand your customer, which makes sense, right? But in today's world, how many are able to do that? Because they tend to rely on building personas, they tend to rely on sometimes focus group, but I do feel it takes way more than that. It takes also emotional intelligence on the marketer side, because you can have all the personas you want, but those personas are just facts about your audience, and you can probably have some similarities into that, but the emotional intelligence is what you cannot build in an office. It's something that you either have it or you don't, and I think that makes a difference between a good marketer and a great marketer.
100%. I mean, absolutely 100%. But I think again, the marketeer is only a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And often the marketing department may not even been the ones that have put together the marketing personas.
That makes sense. And as far as putting together the marketing personas, creating all of these nice things we talked about, how do you feel like people that don't have much attention span nowadays, right? Like before we didn't have much attention span. Now it's becoming lower and lower and lower because they're getting exposed to so much. Just look at TikTok and Instagram. You keep scrolling through videos. So really now before we said people give you 10 seconds looking at your page above the fold most of the times before making a decision whether you're worth reading about or not. Probably this number every year becomes smaller. I do feel now it's like more like 3 seconds because they kind of look there. And then, of course, it varies, right? In the service industry, they probably spend more time. In the product of B2C industry, that's probably 3 seconds nowadays. And of course, you can split test messages to see what works best above the fold, right? But I would assume that something that is becoming more and more important nowadays is awareness and brand awareness, because There used to be the concept of you can do direct consumer marketing, get the ROAS, and then we can do branding later on because it is expensive. But in the consumer world, not as much in the service again, this brand awareness, it is becoming more important. So people know, I know this brand, let me spend more than 3 seconds to make a decision. Are you seeing those kind of trends as well in your day to day?
Um, I'd say like it depends. Um, but as you clearly point out, like retail for sure. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to say introduce a whole new brand to a market that where you unaware and try to start selling directly without sort of some sort of recognition of the actual brand. And I think we're boiling it down to again cementing and positioning the some sort of awareness higher up in the funnel. But I mean, we live, I mean, in a world at today where you know people aspire to be influencers. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, but it's a fact, and I mean, it's a good, you know, it's a slippery slope. But if some influencer or someone that you know speaks highly about this, you're more likely to check it out. Um,
And talking about, actually, you said the keyword there, influencers, right? I've seen a big increase in performance, like major increase in performance from e-commerce that are using user-generated content on their landing page and on their ads. And basically, where I'm starting to see it become more and more popular is that, okay, brands do not have money to really do a lot of branding because branding is expensive. Either a large company or branding, it is a cost center for a business. You need to have the vision to do that. But they're trying to find a shortcut, which is working very well, which is we cannot have a lot of branding going on, but let me pay this influencer to generate a video about my company and use that on my website and on my ads, and that immediately creates an association with something you can trust, because we're in a culture where even if you might not know an influencer, because an influencer is saying that, you're gonna be more prone to buying a product. So it is kind of interesting, right? That's new shortcut to get where you need to be, because you can get the video for 100 $150 and use it in your ads.
of course, I mean, you know, the even simpler one was like what I said mentioned before. Ensure that you again have good reviews. I mean, may it be Google Google reviews, or may it be Trustpilot, uh, or if you're a SaaS product, make sure that you know you're being reviewed, and have that to go back to. Again, it's user generated, it's real. People like to see that. But yeah, I mean, I think like the user generated side of things is fascinating, and I mean, again, we're sort of now we're going into like a world of where like deep fakes and the
Oh yes.
etc. is starting to. I think you know we'll hit some sort of line where people won't buy that anymore because they don't know. And I mean, today, I mean, one of the most successful it's like influencers. What is it on Instagram? Is this girl, or is it on TikTok that you can date for a couple of minutes? That is completely AI generated, and you do it for like $1 or two, and she goes on millions of dates per month.
It's funny. It is true. And I mean, like, like I do see an increase in conversion rate when on the product page, right below the main part, you have like 4 or 5 of those UGC contents. But it is interesting. Like, I mean, honestly, I think we are going to see a big switch toward ads not being the typical ads like video or images. I think UGC ads are there to stay on social media. It is going to be interesting, though, to see how this is gonna shape the advertising landscape, because at the end of the day, not everybody can be an influencer. So UGC stands for user generated. So most of these people don't even have a very popular account. They're just something that can be used for creating something that maybe relates better to the user, relates better to the consumer.
But again, when we start talking influences and that side, I think there's a misconception where you believe that, you know, those that have the most amount of followers are the best ones to go for, but that's not really true. I mean,
It's
you want to have long tail influencers that have somewhere between maybe 1,000 to 2,000 followers that are diehards,
yeah,
that have engagement rates that are through the roof, versus Beyonce, that where you pay $1 million for her to mention you in an Insta story and then you're gone. Um, it was cool, but those 2,000 sort of that influence with 2,000 followers will give you a lot more value as an
yeah.
as an advertiser.
And honestly, to me, I don't even care about the influencer posting their video on their channels. I care about using the video for my commercials, my ads, because that's the value, of my opinion, there. Because 2,000 people, yeah, maybe get a couple of sales, but my business is not going to survive on those couple of sales, right? But now, if your content is good and you're good at doing content, my ads can spend 30, 40 grand a month and get me the kind of engagement I need.
But I mean, you're directly relating again to how landing page optimization is almost required to happen. I mean, you need to have an association from the ad to the landing page to the actual overarching brand, um, because it needs to have that red thread
Yeah.
to then finally whatever is being said sort of in your ad on your landing page, and then sort of where you sort of position your brand and what service you deliver, that all needs to sort of
Work together, yeah.
work together, but you also need to deliver on it. I mean, I think we're in a world that, I mean, either you're in it to make money quick, but you won't build anything sustainable. But I mean, good for you. You might have made quite a lot of money during that short stance of time. But if you want to build something sustainable that has sort of a growth trajectory, it needs to deliver on all those.
And Alex, I know we're heading toward the conclusion, but I want to take advantage of the fact that you are a very good SEO guru. And I wanted to ask you about, page load speed, technical considerations of SEO, because basically, everybody keeps reading and everybody keeps repeating, oh, if you increase the speed of your website, your conversion rate increases, which I can see why. If a website loads slow, you're going to convert at a lower rate. But at the end of the day, most websites, they load quite fast on the phone, right? How much truth there is about the speed, because I would assume that as long as you don't load the page in 15 seconds where you lose your patience, 3 seconds should be fine, and it then comes down to potentially content, right? But how much truth there is about the page load importance on mobile, and more importantly, all of those Google reports that tells you, oh, your website loads in 7 seconds on mobile. Then you go on the phone, you load it, and it loads fast. So what's the truth behind that? Like, what number should you look at? How important it is? Like, can you shed some light, since it's one of your core expertise as SEO?
I'd say that considering we're talking about SEO, and I think it's important to sort of take that. And I think sort of the leading search engine in the field of SEO in the Western world, at least, is Google. And one of its variables as part of sort of their SEO algorithm is is your loading time, and also something called Web Vitals. It's which is sort of part of loading time. We don't have to go into the technical details because that will bore you, but that's a variable. So if you want to stand the chances to rank high organically in the search engines. Um, Working and improving your loading time uh, is almost a must. And then so you see, like that's one, and I think like 3 seconds. I mean, if you've accomplished that, I mean, wow, there's not many pages that load 3 seconds. The first time you visit it, because again, remember here, Rocco, often you might have been to a page, but it's the first time you visit the page that counts, because the second time you often has that cached because you have it in your browser, and then it goes a lot faster because it's cached. It's just how it is. But often you only have one shot with clients or prospects. And if they have a terrible first experience and actually just see that shopping window black, closed, we're not open for business, come back in 15 seconds, they won't come back. But I think, and then secondly, I think like when it boils down to where you should look, and I think you just need to make like a conscious decision of where. It's almost like what scale when you do your own, if you weigh yourself, like you should just use one weight to sort
Yeah.
of make sure that you have one weight. If you keep using different ones, you'll keep like you will never really know how what your weight really is. So I think nailed down with one. Um, there are like numerous amounts of ways that you can work with your website, and often it is such ridiculous things. Because remember, it's not only a landing page; that's the entire website. And that's often why the technical SEO side and loading time is something that companies don't really want to touch. But it could often just be such a simple thing that you have heavy images.
No, that makes sense because I mean, like, those, I feel that the Google report is not very precise, the Google Speed Insight, because sometimes it's like completely off the charts, the estimations they do. But yeah, would you say like 5 seconds should be a result somebody should be happy with for the first time loading? Like an easy one to achieve compared, of course, to a lightning fast 3 seconds.
I mean, I'd say that for I've seen where we've been able to improve loading time. This was now before GA4 was around, but when bounce rate was still a concept. Um, we managed to reduce to increase conversion rate with 20% by improving the loading time with 2 seconds.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, like, particularly for first time visitors, I agree. That's probably becomes important. So let's just say that it is a very important metric. So spend some money on it, making sure it improves.
But again, now all of a sudden in siloed organizations that it's often owned by tech, and tech has a roadmap, and roadmap doesn't really want to deal with these type of things when developers want to work with the absolute latest code base and work on exciting projects that might change the world rather than increasing the loading time of a website.
Fair
um,
enough.
but yes, I mean it has because it has, from a paid point of view, it will cost you money to not work on it. Organically, you won't stand the chance to rank top 3 and sort of take 80% of those search queries and those visitors that are probably very qualified, just because you have a slow landing page.
Thank you so much, Alex. I'm sure that many people will find it interesting. I do think SEO, when it comes to particularly e-commerce or landing page optimization, is a topic that many people tend to overlook. And I know talking to you every week that it is a very important topic that can make a big difference in the use of your marketing budget. And I usually tell people, even if your conversion rate when we say increases by 20%, we don't mean you're going to get a conversion rate of 20%. Just clarifying it, it means if your conversion rate was 3%, it gets 20% better. But on a budget of, let's say, $10,000, a 20% improvement in your conversion rate is a lot more money for your business, which way more than pays for the work you need to put in to improve your website speed. So just wanted to clarify to people, otherwise they're gonna call you, Alex, and ask for a 20%
You're
conversion.
welcome to call.
Yeah.
Um,
But Alex, I think that was a very good point, and I do appreciate the time we took. We are almost toward the conclusion here. We like to keep it in 40 minutes, but just as a summary, guys, today we talked about landing page optimization. We didn't do the typical talk where you say put the red button, the orange button. We talked about things that could really help you from a psychological standpoint. We talked about SEO with Alex, A/B testing, user experience. But last but not least, Alex, go ahead, please.
the one thing I think now when you said the buttons, because we haven't really spoken about it, and I think for those that aren't aware of it, we've spoken about the psychology of the humans in terms of the emotion side, but there is also an emotional side connected to colors.
Yep,
And
orange,
there's
red.
there's a reason why buttons are orange or tend to have a lot or red. It's because it creates urgency.
Urgency, that is correct. And blue is trust. There is a lot to that, but that's a whole
I
different
know.
topic of psychology, right? But yeah, but I think all of those stuff you can look up online. But what Alex and I are sharing, we try to share what we learned through our experience, which you cannot find online most of the times. And I think probably if today there was one key learning is that, well, first of all, make sure your website is fast. Alex shared very good points about that. And make sure that you think like your customer. Don't think like don't think like a marketer, think like a customer, and you will be able to build a landing page that talks to your customer and makes them convert because they understand you're solving a problem for them, or you're offering a solution on something else that might not be a problem, but it creates benefits for them. With that said, Alex, do you have any last words for the day?
No, I mean it's always fun, these type of chats. And I mean, I'm looking forward to our next session. I've come up with a couple of topics that sort of that I think could be spin some heads going forward as well. So
Oh, that's great,
it's
Alex.
always fun.
And I just wanted to remind you all, you can find this episode on LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, and all the major podcast platforms. Alex, you can find him at alex@yourdigitalassembly.com. He's a great guy if you guys want to work with him. I worked with him for over 10 years now. So he's a very good and experienced guy. And even if you have any questions in regards to the topics we covered today, you can write him or write me and we will get back to you right away. But thank you, everyone. Alex, thank you again for joining.
Thank you, Rocco. Until next time.
Yeah, I think it's September 21st, if I remember correctly. So
yeah, it's like in less. Yeah, it's about a week.
Yeah, it's in about a week. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Ciao.